Hello, and in this speaking video I'm going to look at the part 2 topic, describe a time you received bad service. You should say when it happened, where you received it, who you were with and what happened, and explain why the service was bad. And at the end of the video I'll go through a couple of part 3 questions connected to this topic. In the PDF for this video I have given answers for more questions, but I'll only actually go through 2 of the questions from the PDF. To be perfectly honest, I feel that the standard of customer service has declined in my country over the last decade, and I find I am frequently disappointed with the level of service received. I can recall a time recently, though, when it was particularly poor, and I've decided to talk about that time. My family and I were dining out at a local restaurant which we had never been to before. We had booked the table for 7 p.m. and arrived on time, only to be told that the table was not ready and there would be a 15-minute wait. We didn't have a problem with that and got a drink while we waited. 1 hour later, we were still waiting and starving. We were given more drinks and told that it would only be a short wait before our table was ready. With hindsight, we should have left. However, we remained calm and patient, and at 8:30 we were shown to our table. We ordered straight away and expected the food to arrive shortly after. Half an hour later, 2 of the 4 starters arrived, which my children ate, and my husband and I sat and waited for hours. By 9:30 p.m. our first courses still had not appeared, so I said enough is enough. I called the waiter over and asked for the bill. He looked flustered and said, "Your food is coming now." "Too late," I said. I was fuming by this point and just put some money on the table and left. We were all very hungry and looked for the closest restaurant and saw a McDonald's over the road. Within 5 minutes we were eating burger and chips, and it had never tasted as good. We never went to that restaurant again, and unsurprisingly it closed down a few months later. So let's take a look at the language used in this topic. It's quite a tricky one because there's not a lot of language that immediately springs to mind when getting this topic. It's a topic that grammar is very important, and you can use tenses like the past perfect, the past continuous when talking about this topic. So to be perfectly honest, so very good discourse marker to start your answer. You're talking about bad service. Well, bad service is connected with customer service and customer service skills. So these are words that you can use. It has declined. This means to go down. I am frequently disappointed. I'm often disappointed with the level of service received. So we talk about the level of service, whether it's good or bad. I can recall a time recently though, so any topic where you're asked to describe a time, I can recall, meaning I can remember. Recall means remember. Particularly poor, very bad. And I have decided to talk about that time. Very important to try and get a present perfect in your answer at some point, because it's one of those tenses that impresses the IELTS examiner. My family and I were dining out. To dine out means to eat at a restaurant, and we can use the past continuous here, which we had never been to before. So up until this point in the past, we had never been to it, so we use the past perfect. We had booked to show this is an action that took place before we arrived. Again, we use the past perfect. To arrive on time means to not be late. There was a 15-minute wait, so we would have to wait for 15 minutes. But we were still waiting, some more past continuous, Starving is a very strong word that I tell my children not to use, but it is good to use in IELTS speaking because it shows your range of vocabulary, and it means very, very, very hungry. With hindsight, a very useful phrase, can be used in writing as well, and it means the ability to understand an event or situation, but only after it has happened. It's like when you look back on a situation, you have the benefit of hindsight because you're able to look at it backwards and see it differently. So with hindsight, we should have left. However, we remained patient. Patient means very calm and not getting angry. Straight away means immediately. And because we're in a restaurant, I can use a little bit of vocabulary connected to restaurants and meals. The starter is your first course. So because I've used starter, here I will use first course because it's important to use a variety, a range of vocabulary. When you say enough is enough, you cannot put up with the situation any longer. You cannot tolerate the situation any longer. When my children are being annoying and being naughty, I will say enough is enough, and it means I've had enough. I called the waiter over. To call somebody over means to get their attention so they come to you. The bill. In America they call it the check. In the UK we call it the bill. It's the amount you need to pay. He looked flustered. If somebody looks flustered, they look a bit stressed, a bit confused. They don't know what to do. He didn't know how to handle the situation. But it was too late. I was fuming. Fuming means really, really angry. Fuming. Hangry. This is a very modern word that has only recently come into the English language, and it's a combination of hungry and angry. When you get to the point you're so hungry that you start feeling angry, then you are hangry. I have a 15-year-old daughter and she loves her food and she is often hangry, and she will say to me, "I'm hangry now, Mum, please can we eat?" So within 5 minutes we were eating, so past continuous, and it had never tasted as good. So up until that point in the past, I'd never had anything that tasted as good. And unsurprisingly, it closed down. When a business no longer operates, it closes down. So like I said, it's quite tricky, this topic, to immediately think of a range of vocabulary. But if you use something like a restaurant, then you can get some good grammar. We were waiting for a long time and I had never been there before. So it will really add to your grammatical range if you can use past continuous and past perfect. So let's take a look at a couple of questions now from part 3. Like I said before, there are 4 question and answers on the PDF. I'm only going to go through 2 of them though, because it makes the videos too long and you will get bored. But I've put some extra ones in there for you to have a read and a look at. So because this part 2 topic is on the subject of service and customer service, they might ask you, what kinds of service are bad? Well, restaurant service is the main one that I can think of that can be poor. So remember to paraphrase the words from the question: poor, bad. In many countries, diners are expected to tip if they receive good service, yet nowadays waiters expect a tip regardless of whether the service is good or bad. So what I'm saying here is, in the past, like in the UK, we only gave tips, this is money, to the waiter if the service is good. Now in the UK, the waiters expect it. They think it is just normal for you to give it whether the service is good or bad, regardless of whether, irrespective of whether it is. So even if it's bad, they still want the tip. Diners is another word for customers. Waiters in the past we used to only talk about male waiters, and we used waitresses for female, but a lot of words like this, manager, manageress, headmaster, headmistress, we are now just using one form to talk about males and females. This means that the level of service has dropped significantly because tipping is the norm, so the servers don't have to give particularly good service. So the verb is to tip, meaning to give extra money when you pay your bill. Tipping is the noun, and here tipping is the norm. The noun from normal is the norm, and this can be used in writing as well. The servers is another way of saying waiters. Another question they may ask you is, as a boss, what would you do to prevent bad service? Training is the best way to prevent bad service. Many companies do not invest in training because it costs time and money, but this is short-sighted. Short-sighted is a very useful phrase, and you could use it in writing as well. If something is short-sighted, it means the results of the actions haven't been considered. So a short-sighted approach. So it's when somebody does something and they're doing it for what they think is a good reason, but they haven't looked at the long-term effects of it. So it's a short-sighted approach. They're only looking at something in the short term. So they're not doing it because it costs time and money, but this is short-sighted. Because if you lose customers because of bad service, then it is costlier in the long run. So here I'm saying that, okay, you save money because you don't offer training, but as a result, you lose customers because of the bad service. So it is actually going to cost you more money than investing in training. In the long run is a way of saying over a long period of time, and that's a useful expression as well, over a long period of time, in the long run. Hope you found this video useful. Quite a tricky topic if you get it, but I would recommend focusing on service like in a restaurant or a hotel, and because it will give you quite a bit to talk about. Thank you for watching.